Hello, Nashio. Welcome to the K-League United podcast. Paul Neate here, along with Matthew Binns. We're back this week. We've been away for a bit. We didn't think it would have been right or appropriate to record a podcast about something as unimportant, really, as football so soon after what happened in Itaewon on the night of October the 29th. It's a tragedy that has greatly affected many throughout Seoul, Korea, and of course, around the world. So before we begin this week's podcast, we would like to offer our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims and of course, may those who lost their lives rest in peace.
Yeah, we hope that anyone who has been affected by the tragedy is able to find the support needed to navigate a way through what is undoubtedly a difficult time. May we never see anything like this happen ever again. Now we're going to take a short break here. We're going to hit reset and we're going to come back and then we're going to talk about what we do best, which is football. We'll be right back.
Oh, they scored! It's Grant who's got the goal from the free kick, and we're heading for extra time now, surely.
Domingo! It is 2-0, and that now surely seals the K-League title for John Buckland Motors.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, Nasio. Welcome to the K-League United podcast. And joining me, Paul Neate, this week is, well, we've got Matthew Binns.
Hello.
Franco Balan.
Hello.
And Michael Redmond.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, look at this. 4-person.
Yeah, it's full house tonight.
Full house indeed, yeah. Well, I mean, it is the end of the season, I suppose. It's any time of year to get this many people involved. It is this time of the season. I mean, has it been a good season, do you think? Will we look back on this season as being a classic of the K-League?
It depends. It depends who you talk to.
True. If we're talking to, I mean, for Matthew, perhaps not. For the neutral in K-League, maybe. I don't know.
I think
Possibly.
I think it's been a long one. I think that's a relentless season. I think would be the way to describe it.
That's pretty accurate.
What with the early start to the year and the World Cup tagged on at the end of it, the Champions League, the EAFF, it's been pretty full on, I think. And I think we've seen at times the quality on the pitch suffer. Not necessarily all the time. There's been some great matches along the way, some very memorable moments. Even with my John Book bias glasses on, it has been a memorable season in terms of what was achieved, and we've had 2 playoff finals. So yeah, definitely one to recall, but it's been intense. There's not been much time to really digest what's happened, to kind of really take a step back and look at how it's all transpired.
Yeah,
well,
Michael,
I'd have to echo that sentiment, because everything was just so condensed. You know, everything just came flying at us from the word go when the season kicked off in February, and then it's been nonstop ever since then. And now we have the World Cup to deal with. So we've had our plates full this year.
Definitely have, yeah. Michael, what about you? I mean, obviously the K-League 2 as well has been just as relentless. More teams, more games, more midweek games.
More teams, more games, more midweek games, more drama in the K-League too. I don't think I've ever had a memorable K-League, to be honest, but that's me, biased as a Seoul Elan fan. It's been a long one, and obviously we'll probably touch on this in the new year. There's even new teams coming in the K-League 2 next year. Yeah. So for me, I feel like there's only more of this to come, of a quite in-depth, condensed and long season.
Yeah, well, we're going to touch on K-League 1 and K-League 2. K-League 1, we're going to look at, Ulsan. Were they deserved champions? What happened at John Book? Who were the surprise package or perhaps overachievers of K-League 1? The biggest underachievers, who were they? Relegation for Songnam and Gimcheon, what what are their chances of winning promotion next season? Then in K League 2, Gwangju champions again. How did they do it? Can they stay up? Daejeon finally they make their way back to K League 1. What was different this year? We'll touch on that. What now for Anyang after more playoff heartbreak? Then there was Gimpo's first season at K League level. We'll talk about surprise packages and biggest underachievers. But first, we should probably react to the World Cup squad for South Korea. That was announced on Saturday, just gone. Son's in. He looks fine. Not sure about his fashion sense, but he looks all right to me. I think, first of all, we should break down the numbers and sort of go over who's in and who's not. First of all, Branko, 3 goalkeepers. Who are they, and who do you think is going to be first, second, and third choice?
Okay, well, I think where the goalkeepers are concerned, no surprises with the selections given the situation. Kim Sung-gyu, Cho Hyun-woo, and Song Bum-kun. I think we can settle on the fact that it's a pretty good possibility Bento's going to go with Kim Sung-gyu as his number 1. Personally, I would like Cho Hyun-woo to be that number 1. I just feel like he's the best shot stopper of the 3 goalkeepers. As for who's going to be the number 3, I think it's going to be Sung Bum-kun. He's still a little bit on the young side, so he needs a little more exposure to the senior national team. But him being in Qatar can be a really good experience for him, for the fact that he was selected because Kim Dong-jun got injured in that car accident, and I think if that had not happened, he probably would have been in the squad. So that's goalkeepers in a nutshell.
Yep. Now, Matthew, if you're touching on Song Bum-kun, obviously you know a lot about him. It feels like it's taken him a bit longer than maybe it ought to have done to break into the full national team. Just one cap.
Yes and no. I think they've taken the time with him. He's obviously a goalkeeper with a lot of potential, but I think he was required at Olympic level first. I think that was the first and foremost responsibility under Kim Hak-bum's tutelage to try and, well, first he was in the squad to help get the gold medal at the Asian Games. Didn't play, mind. That was Cho Hyun-woo's glory, but he stayed with the squad to try and get something from the Olympics. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but he did get that military exemption in the Asian Games, as mentioned prior. I think the plan was always to bring him through. There's always been 3 good goalkeepers ahead of him, though. 4 as well, if you included Gusong-yeon, Daegu. So, yeah, I think his time would have come. I think this is perhaps a World Cup too early for him, but I also think he's had a better season than Cho Hyun-woo. I really feel
more clean sheets.
Yeah, more clean sheets, but also I just think he's really come on quite a lot this year in a John Book shirt. I feel a lot of people are always quick to point out his mistakes, but I think his mistakes aren't as often as people make them out to be, and I really do think he's done all right this season. So glad to see him get the call up, but yeah, he's not going to be anywhere near the starting positions in this squad. He's just there as the 3rd choice.
Yeah. Well, moving up to the fullbacks or lateral backs, as Bento called them in his press conference, which I will be using from now on. So lateral backs. Well, there was 5 in the squad: Kim Tae-wan, Kim Min-wan, Yoon Jong-gyu, Kim Jin-soo, and Hong Chol. Now, Bento, well, he said in his press conference that he's taken 5 not because of Kim Jin-soo's injury or fitness concerns. It was already an idea that he'd had to take 5 because he's tried 2 of them on the left. Kim Min-wan played on the left, tried him out there. So that's probably why he's done that. And in terms of Kim Jin-soo's fitness, well, he said he thinks he'll be fine to start. He said the injury wasn't ever serious, and he feels better than obviously it wasn't as serious as the injury that kept him out of the World Cup last time. So he's kind of positive, and he was in training. I think we've read this week that he's been in training with the rest of the team in Qatar. So I think, the fullbacks, I think I'd have to say left back would have been pretty certain if Kim Jin-soo was fit or guaranteed to be fit. But now he's not. I'm not quite so sure. And also, Kim Tae-wan at right back, I'm not so sure about that either. He seems to like Yoon Jong-yu of FC Seoul. He seems to like him, which is interesting because he's not really had the best of seasons because of obviously how FC Seoul have performed, but it's not really nailed on. I think who's going to start at full back positions, maybe even Kim Min-wan at right back or even left back. So we'll see what happens there. But moving centrally, Matthew, who do you think of the centre backs? Who's the first choice for those positions? Do you think?
Well, centre backs. Well, Bento's been teasing a back three. No, he is going to probably play a back four, but Iceland, we saw him experiment with. He actually played Kwon Kyung-won, Kim Young-won, and Park Ji-soo at the start of the Iceland game. Park Ji-soo obviously got taken off with an injury, and he's now out of the World Cup squad, and he was replaced by Cho Yoo-min. Those three are going to the World Cup, along with little-known defender Kim Min-jae, who's currently playing his trade in Serie A at the moment for Napoli. Doing all right by all accounts. But yeah, I think it was an interesting bit of experimentation from Bento. I still think he's probably going to go for the back four, but the back three does allow them to be a bit more compact when they're on the back foot. Against Iceland, we saw fullbacks Hong Chul and Yoon Jong-yu in the midfield. As you just mentioned, perhaps not the two fullbacks you'd prefer, but they played all right. I mean, Hong Chul, he's a decent left back. And against Iceland as well, we also saw two defensive midfielders in Jung Woo-young and Son Jun-ho to add that extra bit of security. So, yeah, I think starting, you're probably looking at Kim Min-jae, obviously, and Kim Young-won if it's a back four. But back three, probably Kim Min-jae, Kim Young-won, and you'd be tempted to go with Kwon Kyung-won over the experience of Cho Yoo-min.
Yeah, I think Cho Yoo-min's in there because he's versatile, can play in a 3 or a 4, and he's probably, heir to the throne really to sort of move in. And by the time the next World Cup comes around, you would expect him to be pushing for a starting spot. Kim Young-won, obviously, it's probably his last World Cup, certainly one as a starter. But going over to Kim Min-jae, Michael, now, he's obviously playing at Napoli, having a great season. They're top of the league, 11 points clear. If you're Kim Min-jae, are you staying there for as long as you can, or is the Premier League the next destination for him, do you think?
Well, it's one of them strange ones, really, because we always looked at a World Cup and you look at like a breakout star. Obviously, we knew how good Kim Min-jae is anyway. But it's weird now because it's in the middle of the season. And normally that turns heads anyway. But regardless of the World Cup happening this week, I think he's already turned heads in Serie A anyway. The way he's played, from what I've seen of Napoli this season, he's just fit right into the team. And I think he's turning heads where I think personally for his own development, just have one more season in Serie A. But I can see big clubs going in to get him. I'm personally a very big fan of watching him. I don't know. I think if he has a very good World Cup, I think he's going to have people knocking on the door come May time. Definitely.
I mean, Man United have had a history of centre-backs like him who like to step out. Rio Ferdinand, Maguire was supposed to be that kind of centre-back. Kim Min-jae, is it kind of in that mould?
Well, I think you're 100% right. He is the like of a Rio Ferdinand and what we expected from Harry Maguire. And, United still do have defensive issues. Mahrez has come into the team now and he's brilliant, but who's really his solid partner as well? So maybe if he came and teamed up with him, that'd be fantastic for Manchester United. I'm just happy to see him at the moment because the way Serie A, I do follow Serie A quite a bit. There's been like new champions the last 2 years now, and if Napoli make it a third one, that'd be brilliant to see. And going undefeated going into a winter break as such, a World Cup break is something that's unbelievable from that side.
Absolutely, yeah.
It'd break my heart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what a great season he's having. But moving up into the sort of DMs, if we're assuming that Bento plays a 4-2-3-1 with those two holding midfield players, Branko, who have you got there, and who do you think will be the sort of starting two?
I've got Hwang In-bum and Jung Woo-young.
Yeah.
I think that would be the expectation. As we know, Korea is in a very tough group. Uruguay, the first match is going to be really critical. How they come out, how they start, and their execution is going to be one of the things to look at very closely. So Hwang In-bum and Jung Woo-young, how they dictate the midfield and how they distribute to the guys around them moving forward into attack. That's going to be one of the key points in the first half hour. That I like to look at the first 30 minutes of a match to sort of get an idea how a team is going to play. And they really need to get off to a good start if they want to get at least a point from the opening match.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And they are well stocked for DMs as well. Obviously, they've got Paek Sung-ho and Son Jun-ho, 2 players linked to John Book. So
Yeah,
whoever it is that starts in those 2 positions are going to be, earning their spot.
I personally think I know you're a very big fan of Hwang In-bum, Paul, and this is not to say that I'm not a fan of him either. I do enjoy what he offers, but I quite actually like Son Jun-ho, and
Yeah, it's not easy to pick a 2. It really isn't.
Yeah, I think Son Jun-ho's got that. He's good in his defensive qualities, obviously very highly rated on these shores anyway, and but he's also got that bit of transition. I know Hwang In-bum's got all the skills as well. I know Hwang In-bum plays there, but I always feel that Hwang In-bum can offer a bit more going forward than coming back. But obviously you follow him far more closely than I do.
Yeah, he used to be a 10 or an 8. Now he's definitely a 6. And yeah, I don't know what it is about him that's not sort of been not pigeonholed, but he's in that role now, and it's like, well, he could offer a bit more going forward. But when you look at the options that Korea have in that sort of third of the pitch, which we'll get to next, actually, they do have the Korea are quite well stocked. Michael, the attacking mids, again, we're assuming that this is a 4-2-3-1. The likely candidates to play there, who have we got, and who do you think are going to be the ones that are picked?
Well, of course he's going to bench Son Heung-min, never play a minute of him. Yeah, on the left, obviously Son Heung-min. I think even with the not injury, such just scare that he's had last week, I think he's still going to start and probably play every minute of the group stage at least. In the middle, I do have EJ Sung. Obviously, he's an experienced player at John Book at Mainz now. Obviously, a lot of the people online have been loving the Ikangi, and I really want him to try and break into the team. I think he might get game time, but I don't think he's going to start ahead of EJ Sung. And then really, I think it's Hwang Hee-chan really, isn't it, on the right-hand side as well. Something Q, good option too, but I think Hwang Hee-chan is really it's going to be Son, EJ Sung, and Hwang Hee-chan for me.
Yeah, there is options on that right-hand side. And 3 really, because you've got Na Sang-ho as well, Jung Woo-young, as you mentioned, Song Min-gyu and Kwon Chang-hoon, also all candidates there. So with this 26-man squad, not 23, there are quite a lot of options in all around the field. Now then, the striker, perhaps not so much well stocked there. Vince, who do you think is going to lead the line?
Well, there's 2 official options. That would be Hwang Hee-jo and Cho Kyu-sung. Out of those 2, it'd be Hwang Hee-jo leading the line. Cho Kyu-sung's obviously had a very promising end to the season. Hwang Hee-jo, there's been some criticism about his form, but I think Paulo Bento is going to go with the player he trusts. Hwang Hee-jo has scored the most goals under Paulo Bento. He's trusted by the manager, having scored 15 to Son Heung-min's 12 under Paulo Bento. That is, and it's yeah, he's a finisher, isn't he? He's a poacher. You get that ball in the box and you think he's gonna put it away. Korea has enough talent to kind of deliver into those channels for him. Cho Kyu-sung, obviously, he's a fantastic option. I think he's really come into his own, but he's not quite trusted yet by Bento. Not quite that first team player, but I think with Hwang Hee-jo not having the form that we've been used to seeing him have for Korea in recent years, I think if Hwang Hee-jo starts slowly, then there's really pressure on him to because Cho Kyu-sung will quickly fit in, quickly take the opportunity if need be. But I think you got to really look at how the team dynamic works. I think if you've got like EJ Sung as you reckon who's going to be starting, Michael, he's going to be there supporting the attack. We always have Son Heung-min who kind of drifts in to make it up into a front two effectively. If it was a 3-4-3 like we saw against Iceland, we could see like Kwon Chang-hun coming into that attacking midfield role with Son Heung-min coming. Kwon Chang-hun played, Son Heung-min didn't play, and Hwang Hee-jo didn't play. What we saw was Cho Kyu-sung and Son Min-kyu play, but they're effectively the understudies to Hwang Hee-jo and Son Heung-min in this team. And that's how we saw them play. We saw Son Min-kyu coming up to partner Cho Kyu-sung up top, and we could probably see the same if it was Son Heung-min and Hwang Hee-jo. So I think that's how I'd see it. Hwang Hee-jo to start, Cho Kyu-sung waiting on the bench, ready to pounce, ready to capitalize on the slightest bit of ill form of Hwang Hee-jo.
Yeah. Do we? I mean, what positions do we think are overstocked or understocked? To start with, Michael.
Well, I think, to be honest, like if you do look at the defense, we don't know if it is going to be a 3 or a 4. Is he suggesting maybe a 3 because it is slightly understocked? I don't know. The top looks quite heavy, and as Matt just mentioned there are plenty of other options. He's saying you've got understudies now for Hwang Hee-jo and Son Heung-min. I'm just worried about the back a little bit, especially if the likes when you're playing Portugal, you're playing Uruguay. Might be okay against Ghana, but it's interesting to see what might happen because these are teams now that Korea played Uruguay in the World Cup before last as well, and it's interesting just to see what happens at the back really because they do seem to leak goals.
Branko, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about the defense myself.
Yeah.
And in particular, the fullback positions, because as we already said, Kim Jin-soo is probably not 100% right now. And according to the depth chart, his backup is Hong Chol. I don't really fancy him to be in this squad, but I don't know. Maybe Bento thought that there was no other viable option in terms of a backup. And then you look at right back, who's going to start? Is it going to be Kim Moon-hwan? Is it going to be Kim Tae-hwan? Is he fully fit? And then in the middle, obviously we talked about Kim Min-jae and Kim Young-won as a defensive pairing in the middle. They're quite good together, but they can't hold the line by themselves if Uruguay and Portugal are bombing up and down the wings. That's a recipe for disaster. So let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I suppose we should move on now, I think, to any surprise inclusions. I mean, I don't think I wasn't as shocked, or there wasn't any shock inclusions. Maybe because last time the Lee Sung-woo seems to come out of nowhere in 2018. Maybe I wasn't paying that much attention to the squad compared to what I am now. This time, I think we largely expected this squad. But, Branko, are there any surprise inclusions, do you think?
I don't really think so. I think, as you just said, this is more or less what we expected. We do know that there is some young talent in the pipeline, but I think we're still a year or two off before a change of generations takes place.
Yeah, fair enough. Michael, how about you? Anybody that you were surprised to see being called up?
Not particularly. Just looking at it. Obviously, forgot to mention before, like Nasang Ko there. Now I really, really rate him, so I'm glad to see that he's got the call up, but obviously he's been making a lot of appearances recently as well. No, I think it's quite a standard position. I agree with Branko. the next World Cup, you'll see a lot of different players in that call up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have quite liked to see On Sang have been included in this squad. He's not included. I actually, no, Michael just said Na Sang-ho, and actually I had penciled Na Sang-ho possibly as one of the players I wouldn't have included if I was to squeeze On Sang in. But I don't know. On Sang, he had that period out injured. I mean, he has come back in strong form for Ulsan, but yeah, I think as you kind of touched on it there, we've had so many friendlies this year that Bento's had all the time to experiment, had all the time to already play his shock inclusions and test them out, which is a good thing in a way. Like, most World Cup teams, going mainly from an England perspective, but yeah, going from Korea's perspective in the last World Cup, you get these shock inclusions and it becomes all the talk about them and like they're going to light up the world and everything. But actually, while there are criticisms towards Bento, I think he's handled this quite well. I think we don't have shock inclusions because he's had time to test everyone, and that's if only a good thing going into the World Cup. You don't want last rolls of the dice. We don't want like unproven stars like Lee Sung-woo back in 2018 rather coming into the squad. It would have been great to see Lee Sung-woo actually get a chance in the friendlies. That's a gripe I have. But in terms of actually picking this team, I think he's thought about it carefully and he's given chances to the players he thinks will fit his system. Whether you agree with the system or not, it's another matter, but he knows his system. He's given chances to players that would fit. He's got players in each position with a decent understudy. Most understudies are younger, which kind of fits into what Branko said there. Like, we've got the first team now at the right age, but the understudies for each of those positions, some of them are younger, some of them are up-and-coming talents. They'll benefit greatly from this tournament, and they may get minutes as well. Like I said, I guess Lee Kang-in, it was the big name, but I wouldn't say he was a surprise per se. But having not really played under Bento, I don't see him playing at all.
Yeah, I think the only surprise for me, and not because of who it is, it's because of the season that he's had, is Kwon Chang-hoon. He didn't score at all in the league for Gimcheon. I think he got very few assists. I think it might even been just one. I'm not even sure exactly, but not the best of seasons for a Gimcheon side that might have needed that kind of inspiration to avoid relegation. I know obviously he's a very good player. He has contributed before, but I suppose if we get to any notable exclusions, obviously Matthew, you obviously already mentioned On Sang there. Michael, is there anybody that you think has been snubbed or perhaps ought to have been included in this squad that wasn't?
I wouldn't say snubbed as such. Like, obviously, we know I've been following a bit of Suwon Blue Wings in the last couple of months. Oh Hyung-gyu, I really liked him when he played for Suwon in the last couple of months. I think maybe some of his decisions in the game, especially I'm looking at the SC Seoul game where there was simulation fouled on him and he got sent off for doing so. I think it's decisions like that which kind of shows that he's kind of just a bit on the cusp of not making this team now, but for learning from experience he'll be in the next 4 years. But I think he's a really great player that just kind of missed the cut.
Yeah, and obviously he is with the squad at the moment as like that backup. But yeah, perhaps if his decision or maybe maturity was a little bit better. I know he's still very young, but he might have, if that was a bit different, he might have been included. Branko, obviously we've talked about Lee Sung-woo a lot about being excluded from this squad. Is there anybody else that you think maybe was perhaps deserved the call up?
Actually, I was thinking about that the other day, and one name that kind of came off the top of my head is Ko Sung-bum.
Okay.
But he had a really rough season. He got COVID early in the year, so that kept him out. And then he also picked up a muscle injury somewhere in the middle of the campaign, so he had to miss a little bit of more time. But it seemed like he was on the path to rediscovering his form towards the end of the year. So he was included in the side for the friendly against Iceland. I had some outside hope that he might make the World Cup squad. I knew it wasn't a guarantee. He's still under 30, so hopefully there will still be opportunities for him to be selected in the future. I can't really place why or what exactly it is that I feel about him, but he just has a certain presence when he's out there on the pitch. He pops up in game situations when you sometimes don't really expect it, and playing against the teams that Korea's playing against at this World Cup, that would have been a really helpful factor.
Fair enough. One name I'd like to put forward is Kim Dae-won from Gangwon. I mean, 12 goals and 13 assists. That ain't nothing. Would he have been better placed than Kwon Chang-eun? Worth considering, maybe. I don't know, but I think let's one last thing on this Korean national team squad. There are actually quite a lot of K-League players in this squad. It's mostly K-League players, in fact. I want you to pick one each of who you think is going to be the most important. Let's start with Michael.
Well, it's someone who I mentioned earlier there. Well, first of all, Na Sung-ho. And those of you who know me on the podcast a while, I always sing his praises, even though he's at the red side of Seoul, and that angers me. I just think he's an exceptional player, and as you've got a feel for a player that you like. I was watching him back in 2018 being the top goal scorer in the K-League too. So to watch someone from the second division then go up to the first division and now in the Korean national team, I kind of wish him all the best. So I'm kind of pleased that he's in the setup and in that lineup.
Yeah, he actually ruined my birthday in 2018. I went down to watch Daejeon against Gwangju, and he scored 2 in the last 5 minutes to win it. We were winning 1-0. We scored late, 82 minutes, and then he scored 2. One was a bicycle kick. I was like, well, the audacity. It's my birthday. How dare you?
I think he hurt my heart a few times as well, to be honest.
Yeah. Matthew, how about you?
If I'm going with heart over head, I'm happy Kim Jin-soo's finally at a World Cup. In terms of experience for the K-League, he's one of the most experienced players there. He's got lots of experience with the former champions. Oh, I forgot about that word there. But yeah, he's got lots of experience with Jeonbuk. He's got lots of experience of winning things. He's a player who, as we've talked about a lot this season, but a player I've enjoyed watching do the darker side of the game, the rolling on the floor, the player who's not afraid to slow things down when need be, but also maybe go in with a tough tackle or two. I'm quite looking forward because he missed out in 2018 through an injury, and in 2014 as well, he missed the World Cup. So it's been a long, long wait for Kim Jin-soo. It's been a decade. It looked like he could even miss this one with an injury. I hope he gets game time in this. I think he will if he's fit. I think, it's going to be fun watching him. But that's definitely more of a choice from the heart than the head.
Yeah, he must be a pub quiz question somewhere. The most caps picked up for South Korea without playing in a World Cup because he's a vastly experienced player and he's had a good season and obviously ended it with an FA Cup win as well. But Branko, how about you? Who would you say is going to be the most sort of important or influential K-League player amongst this team?
This is probably an outside pick. Maybe not, but I'm going to go with another Jeonbuk player, and we talked about him already. Sung Min Kyu. He played quite well against Iceland. Scored the only goal of the match. Good speed, good positioning. Has the awareness in that attacking area in the final third. So he probably won't play a lot, but he seems like the type of player who will take his opportunities when they come.
Yeah, he's done well to get himself back in the team. Obviously struggled with fitness a little bit and whatnot earlier this year, but yeah, he's. I think that goal as well, obviously, because his first goal, it was given as an own goal. Was that last year? Was that earlier this year? It must have been last year. I think he scored in those sort of bubble games in Goyang but it didn't go. It didn't go down as his goal, and obviously finally he's managed to get off the mark there for his country. But my pick is probably Kim Young-Gwon. I think he's probably a nailed-on pick to start at centre back alongside Kim Min-jae, the most experienced as well out of the K-League contingent, nearly 100 caps, and this will be his third World Cup. He's played in every game of the last 2 World Cups for Korea, and now this might be a little bit unlikely. But if Korea make it out of the group into the round of 16, he plays all those games, he'll reach 100 caps. So I think he'll be a very, very important player for Korea in this World Cup. But that's enough of the World Cup and the Korea squad for now. We'll have a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll look at the K-League 1 season from 2022.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
All right, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. So we have new K-League champions. We've never said that before on this podcast. It's only been said twice, in fact, since 2013. But Branko, Ulsan are the champions. Deservedly so?
I think so. They basically went wire to wire to win it this year. First league title since 2005, so it's been a long wait. Four seasons in a row finishing runners up, and then finally, this year they get over the line at the end. They scored more goals than any other club in the division. They also conceded the least, so they got the job done at both ends of the pitch. And it was a team effort. Leonardo had a really good season for them. Junamano had a really good season for them. Vako Kazashvili had a really good season for them. And, they put it all together. And, they should enjoy it.
Yeah, well, they did enjoy it. I'm sure they're still enjoying it. John Book, there's this sort of, an argument maybe that we're John Book just not as good. We're Ulsan better. What's your take? What happened to John Book, Matthew, do you think?
Oh, yeah. My thoughts on Ulsan is, deserved champions this season. I don't think that it was the best Ulsan squad we've seen. I still think the 2019 squad was the best Ulsan team, but they're the best team this season. There's no doubt about it. I think, John Book have definitely had a season they will want to forget by their lofty standards. It's been a difficult second album for Kim Sang-sik, although his debut was somewhat of a solid solo effort, really, after the breakup of a band. So he's kind of like, I don't know whether he's Liam Gallagher's BDI or he's Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds.
Or Wings.
Or Wings at this point. Better than the Beatles. No.
One of the band the Beatles very nearly should have been and could have been.
That was what I was searching for right there, yeah. But no, there's just that time to settle now. And it's clear that it was just a slow start that mostly hampered this John Book side. Like, there was hesitancy over playing more aggressive tactics at times. There was an inability to pick a best 11 at the start of the season. And subsequently, there was like a sense of vulnerability. Every team that came to Jeonju thought that they were there for the taking. Jeonju Castle, as it's lovingly referred to by the fans, it certainly didn't seem much like a fortress at times this year. They also had a poor summer by their standards. They saw Stanislav Ilyashenko go. It made kind of a bit of sense in terms of the player was wanting game time, but also their Chokyu Sung coming back. So it kind of made a bit of sense to shift him on. They couldn't have expected what was to happen with Takehiro Kunimoto. But they didn't bring anybody in. That was a massive difference in the title race when you think of the quality that Ulsan brought in Martin Adam. But it was an encouraging end to the season for John Buck. They salvaged it somewhat, even if it wasn't enough to derail Ulsan on this occasion. And it looks like a run-in that will actually give Kim Sang-shik a lifeline and a chance to continue shaping this project. Whether that's good for John Buck fans or opposing fans remains to be seen. But for the positives, it was a battling ACL performance. I think that was one of my highlights as a fan. They came within a shootout of being in the final, but you take a step back from that, you think, well, why were they such underdogs in the first place? And then you have to remember, oh yeah, that was because of that terrible start to the season. Expectations were lowered so much that they went into those matches in Japan as plucky underdogs. When you look at the roster they had and you're thinking, actually, you should have been dominating those games a lot more. But yeah, still, it was a performance to be proud of. It was the best tactical performance given the state they were in. It's the way I spin it. They won the FA Cup as well. That's definitely a positive, and it was. We haven't even got time to really discuss it, but it was a solid and assured showing against FC Seoul. Went 2 goals down in the first leg, fought back, and they went and won the second legs. Once again, it was usual suspects that dragged them through. Modo Barra and Cho Kyu-sung with all the goals for John Buck across both those legs. Yeah, they won 10 of the last 12 across all competitions. And the only 2 they didn't win was that draw in the first leg and that loss to Ulsan, which won't be forgotten in a hurry. But you think if they had just won that Ulsan game, I know it's perhaps been selfish after winning so many, but you think you just win that Ulsan game, it could have been a historic comeback even by John Buck standards, but it wasn't to be. And on the season as a whole, it would have been perhaps a little bit undeserving. So credit to Ulsan for holding them off. It's something they've struggled to do, and they've got over the line this year. I guess there's also one other thing I've noted down here, and that's it's kind of got overlooked, but there's kind of a changing of the guard going on at John Buck. Kim Sang-shik has brought in a lot of younger talent this season. Now, I know there's a lot aimed at Kim Sang-shik at how he takes off the under-22 players early in matches, and that's still a problem that persists at John Buck. It's a problem that still needs to be rectified. But they have been slowly swapping out the players from a couple of seasons ago and replacing them. You've got Kim Min-hwan coming in. You've got Kim Jin-kyu. Paek Sung-ho has now become a really vital role in the centre of that midfield. Cho Kyu-sung is back. How long? Who knows? Because surely some European clubs may take interest in him soon. Son Min-kyu is there now as a starter. So you think, all right, well, there is that kind of younger core being developed, and they have got a B team now with what are supposedly promising talents. Maybe it was a season too soon to see more of them this season, but you think perhaps that's why he'll be kept. That strong finish to the season and the project that is kind of being built, the changing of the guard. So yeah, that's John Buck in quite a large nutshell.
Yeah, well, that's the top 2. Ulsan have already made some signings or a signing, so we'll see what happens over in Jeonju and how they respond and how they kind of rebuild that squad and add to it and all that kind of stuff. But moving further down the table a little bit, Michael, who would you say were the biggest surprise package or maybe overachievers in the K-League 1 just this season just gone?
Well, I think it's quite obvious really who it is this year. It has to go to Incheon United. Looking at them as a team who every single year we always say the same thing, like they're going to be in a relegation zone, they're going to be in a pro-rel with the K-League 2 team. That is only the second time they've ended up in the top half after the split in the K-League 1 before they changed the whole format around. It's the second best finish to 2005 when they finished runners-up. But just a team that, as we say, every single year we say, oh, look, they're going to be down at the bottom, they're going to get beat by Daejeon, or they're going to get automatically relegated. For them to pull that off and get an ACL, I think that's quite exceptional. But I do also want to mention Gangwon this year, because Gangwon, they were staring down the barrel of a gun last year. They were 2-0 down in the pro relegation game against Daejeon in the second leg. And it was 3 goals. I remember that, Paul, because we were watching that game together. It was it 3 goals in 5 minutes that just completely saved their season. Not rubbing salt in the world. You're K-League 1 now, so. But apart from that, that's what saved their season. They should have been going down. They were 2-0 down in aggregate, and to pull it back to have the joint best finish they've ever had, it's quite impressive. So I think Incheon takes that, but Gangwon should also be credited as well for the season they had.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose we should look at the underachievers, and I mean there are quite a few candidates for this. You could probably say most of the bottom half of the table aren't where they would be expected to be. Certainly after some of the size of the clubs and some people like Suwon FC who had a good season last year, and it's quite difficult to pick just one. But I think FC Seoul probably still edge it, even though Suwon Blue Wings finished 10th and were in a relegation playoff. Seoul's squad is still one of the best on paper outside the top 2 or 3. And the amount of games that they controlled in terms of possession, only to end up on the losing side or struggling to a draw. The games against Songnam, for example, are sort of a case in point. They dominated, I think, all 4 of those games, and they lost at home in their last home game of the season against Songnam. They struggled to a draw with them earlier in the season. They even lost, even having like 72% possession. The squad that they've got, they just can't be finishing 9th. It's just criminal, really. It's been 3 years now since Seoul have finished in the top half. Suwon Blue Wings, it's final B for the 3rd time in 4 years. But the thing is with FC Seoul, I suppose we keep saying this, and how is this real Seoul? Is this the real FC Seoul? Is this what we've become used to? Because, all right, you can still say they're underachieving. They signed Ilychenko in the summer. You thought, well, okay, they've got him in. You can get him back scoring again, and they'll be, good for a top half finish. And they came very, very close. But it goes down to these games that they threw away. The 2-2 draw with Suwon FC at home. They conceded late goals like that, and that's what's been the difference, really. So a number of candidates, but still based on the sort of the quality they've got in their squad, I'd say FC Seoul. Now then, relegation. Songnam went down, so did Gimcheon. Branko, what do you think of their chances of winning promotion back to K-League 1?
Well, I think a lot is going to depend on what happens in the off season, what happens in the winter transfer window, who's coming, who's going, how will they improve their squads, where Songnam is concerned, or it could be true for Gimcheon. We'll see. They are, I would say, almost equally capable of doing what Gwangju did in K-League 2 this season. Maybe I would actually nudge Songnam a little bit ahead of Gimcheon in this case, because even though there was a lot of drama at Songnam this year, and then finally, the Kim Nam-il actually wanted to leave the club, and I believe it was the president who was trying to stop his departure for some time, and then finally he did leave the club, and they actually played some okay football in the last few matches, so they'll want to bounce back. Gimcheon, well, I think they will want to erase the bit of sour taste of losing in the promotion relegation final against Daejeon Hana Citizen. Congratulations to them, though. They're back up to K-League 1 for the first time since 2015. So that's a team to watch out for next season. But I think Gimcheon, they have a realistic chance to go back up because they're just a little too good to be a K-League 2 team, and they have a really good manager. Kim Tae-won, I think he deserves to be a K-League 1 manager. So hopefully both those teams are going to make a big push, and we'll see how it plays out, because we're going to have a few new teams in K-League 2 for next year. So that means more games, longer schedule, probably even more condensed. So it's going to be a party again.
Yeah, it always is. You can't escape the party. Michael, you've been trying to escape the K-League 2 party for a number of years. It's gone full horrible. With the way that things gone for Elan, but you've seen what it's like in K-League 2.
I am.
Who of these two teams have got the best chance of going up?
I'm a resident of the K-League 2 now. I've got my name etched on every seat you can have in that party room. To be honest, I really, I don't worry about them because they're now in our division. I worry about Songnam as an outfit because there's questions about their funding next year. There could be even chances that they're going to get gutted in the off season, and then who do they bring in with the finances that they might have, the finances that they might not have? It's quite aware there's a number of clubs around the K-League who are actually supporting #Save Songnam due to the situation they are in. I can't see Songnam anywhere near playoffs next season. I think they're going to get gutted. It's the nicest word I could think of for these players, and it'll be the shell themselves. Unfortunately, we saw it a few years ago with them. Well, not a few years ago, maybe like 8-9 years ago with them when they changed the name. I do worry about them a little bit. With Gimcheon, obviously, you never really know what you get because they've got the pick of the best players in Korea who still need to do their military service. But they had a slow start in 2021 when they came down, when they changed from Sangju Sangmu to Gimcheon Sangmu. They had a slow start and then just turned it on and clinched the league. The thing is, people are forgetting the quality of the K-League too. People think, it's just a second division, but Bucheon proved it this year. FC Anyang proved it this year. We're going to go on to this, obviously, but I think they're in for a tough time. I don't think it's going to be as easy for them as they might think it is.
Yeah, and Matthew, I suppose it's going to depend on just who exactly Gimcheon do bring in. Obviously, we've seen, I think, the list of players that have applied. They've got, there's quite a lot of good players on that list. They've got the pick of them, really. So it depends who they do pick and how they all settle in.
Yeah, it's always the same with Gimcheon. They're going to be fine, I think. I'm not really worried about them. I am worried about Songnam for the reasons that Michael mentioned. So I think the only thing to consider with Gimcheon is, on one hand, it's the end of a World Cup cycle. So some players may fancy now doing their military service so they can get out of military service in time for the next World Cup cycle. The only other issue with that logic would be that there is an Asian Cup next year, not necessarily going to be in the summer, may well be moved to the winter. So players may also be hesitant to join Gimcheon because you don't really want to be plying your trade in K-League 2 when the chance of a major competition is on the horizon at the national team.
Yeah, fair point. Well, I think that's it. We'll park that now for K-League 1. One more break, and then we'll look at K-League 2.
Footballogy is a football app like no other. With the handiest tool for football fans on your phone, you can locate any match nearby no matter where on the planet you are or plan to be. Keep track of all your visited games, collect all kinds of stats, and get badges for achievements like special games and milestone events. The Footballogy app covers more than 80,000 grounds and 1,200 leagues worldwide, including K-League 1 and 2, as well as K3 and K4 and the WK League. Download Footballogy for free today on iPhone or Android. Connect with your friends, and your football life will never be the same again.
All right, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Michael, Gwangju FC won K-League 2 this season, not for the first time, but they've not really won it quite like that before. How did they do it, and can they stay up next year, do you think?
Deserved champions. I'm sorry, I was taken back by it because it's actually the highest tally a team has actually done to get promoted. Normally around about 70 to 75 points gets you automatic promotion, but they point tally of 86 this year. They weren't messing around. They went down, went, we'll come straight back up again. They had 20 clean sheets as well, so the defensive record too really kind of shows how well they were as a defensive unit as well as an attacking unit. I think they're fine. The team they had that set up in this K League 2 last season, they're running circles around most teams. Now I remember watching Seoul play Seoul in I think it was July, and I was generally embarrassed to be there watching Gwangju play against them because they were just clearly a cut above us. So
yeah, they lost just 4 games all season, which in a 40-game season is quite impressive. All right, well they're moving down to second. Daejeon, finally, they've done it. I mean, what was different this year? I mean, they brought in good players at the back and in goal. I think that was a difference. Last year, they were sort of a bit error prone. They managed to sort of fix that. Lee Chang-gun, the goalkeeper, is superb. The signings of Choi Yu-min, Kwon Han-jin, and Kim Jae-woo in particular, the 3 defenders. And Kwon Han-jin, obviously, he has injury issues this year, hasn't played as enough perhaps that he would have expected to. But his experience, and he's been good around the dressing room, I think, for a lot of players. I thought he'd be captain. He may well kind of have a kind of club captain kind of role, being one of the senior players, but he's been really good for them. Choi Yu-min, he was an MVP candidate as a centre-back. I think that says it all really for them. And he's obviously in the World Cup squad. He's the only player in there that's from K League 2. So he's had a great season. Also, I think they've been free scoring. They managed to score 71. That was the most in the division. That was helped, I think, by the signings they made in the summer. Ju Se-jong helping to pull the strings from deep in midfield. And Willian, they went out and just met his buyout clause, brought him over from Gyeongnam, and he's a proven K League 1 player. It was a bit of a surprise, really, wasn't it, to see him leave Gwangju and go to Gyeongnam. Both excellent signings. Kaiser was another decent signing as well in the summer. Had an impact initially, faded a little bit with injury and stuff like that. But I think the competition of having a number 9 like him has helped bring out the best in Gong Min-hyun, who doesn't score that many, but he tends to score very important goals. In fact, I don't think, in games where he scored, Daejeon didn't lose. And also, I think the manager, he learned from last year. Somebody told me, I won't say who, but somebody told me close to the team last year that they thought they'd done it after the first leg against Gangwon. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but that's what someone told me. This year, I think they learned from those mistakes. It was always in the back of their mind, and it's a very similar situation. They went into the second leg of the playoffs with a 1-goal lead, basically. It's exactly the same situation. And I think that helped. I think it helped with that dominant performance in the second leg. If it would have been a more comfortable lead in the first leg going into the second, they might not have been so aggressive in that performance. So the manager, credit to him, he handled the pressure. Rumors that he's been given a 2-year contract extension, deservedly so. And now really if they can first of all get Ju Se-jong signed up on a permanent deal, he's only on loan from Gamba Osaka. And the few players that are out of contract, like Lee Jin-hyun, he scored 2, including that free kick in the second leg. He needs to get a new contract signed ASAP. And there are also players who are going on their military service. It's about 3 or 4 of them, in fact. So you need to replace those. But Hana Finance Group, they've said that whatever the team needs, in terms of personnel or facilities, that there's going to be support there for that. So I think, as Branko alluded to just earlier, Daejeon, they should be fine next year, and then they may even have a chance of doing what Suwon FC have been doing in sort of top 6 or in and around that for the first couple of seasons. But moving down to third place, that was FC Anyang. Heartbreak again. What now for them, Matthew?
Yeah, I guess it was a step closer than the previous year. They obviously made it to the final where they played 2-1 Blue Wings over 2 legs, and well, heartbreaking loss in the end. A 120th minute winner from Oh Hyung-gu to secure Suwon's safety. But yeah, concerns really for Anyang is that they've spent 2 years and they've managed to build a really solid core of this team. And the closer they get and the more consistent these players play, the more eyes that are watching them. And it seems that some of the larger clubs, some of the K-League 1 clubs are already circling when it comes to some of their key players. Costi and Moya, they've already they're on the radars of a number of top flight clubs. Costi actually was rumored to be Suwon Blue Wings interested in him actually, but we'll see what happens there. There's also their goalkeeper Kim Kyung-jun, who's getting some interest as well. But on positive terms, it's more playoff experience. It's another step closer, and with the added playoff final from this season, there's even more chances than ever to go up. I think they're going to be less bothered by those who've come down. I mean, this year, Daejeon was clearly far better than them, and Gwangju were clearly far better than them, but they're third for a reason. They're the best of the rest, and I don't think they're going to have. It's going to be a lot closer keeping up with the likes of Gimcheon and Songnam. Probably surpass Songnam, to be honest, out of the two. And I think as well, manager Lee Yoo-hyung, he's actually been given a contract renewal, or it's in the process anyway. So they are looking for that stability. They want to build on what they've got. Where we see some K-League 2 teams, they don't achieve it and they've gone all in, and then the following year they have to have this big clear out. I think Anyang, they're still going to be able to hold on to a lot of that core talent, even if some leave. And hopefully, if they do leave, then they get reasonable compensation to reinvest into the squad. So I think as long as they stay under their current manager, it's still positive for them. Heartbreak, but they'll look back at it as experience.
Yeah, try and go one better next time and try and win the league, because Gimcheon, it might take them a little bit of time to get themselves into any kind of cohesive unit. But I mean, we're going further down the table now. Gimpo, it was their first season at this level. I suppose we have to talk about them a little bit because there's 2 more teams coming into the league next year. This would be kind of a good example to follow, really, because they got a shot win on the opening day. They beat Gwangju away 2-1. They annoyed other teams that finished above them. They beat Bucheon, they beat Cheongnam, they beat Gyeongnam as well. They did all right. 10 wins is not too bad. 10 wins and 11 draws. All right, 19 losses won't really, be too thrilled with that. And they shipped 20. Well, they got a goal difference of -26. It's one of the worst in the league. But first season at professional level, they've done very, very well, and they've managed to sort of they signed a lot of players in the winter, and some worked, some didn't, and that's what it's going to be like, I think, for these teams coming up at this level. It'll be a trial and error kind of situation, and they've managed to, I think, assemble a decent squad. They had some good players like Son Sok-young and Yoon Min-ho, who were named in sort of nominations for the best 11. And so, I think most of all, really, they weren't bottom. They were never really anywhere near the wooden spoon battle, if you want to call it that. So I think, fair play to Gimpo. Now, Michael, you talked about surprise packages in K-League 1. What about K-League 2?
Well, to be honest, I think with the K-League 2, I have to take my hat off to Bucheon. Simply for the fact of the season they had prior in 2021, they ended bottom of the table. Now, they were joined on points with Eland in 2021, and Eland scored a few goals more. But to go from being 10th from the foot of the table up to the position they ended up in this season, don't get wrong, it ended in a heartbreaking manner for them because was it injury time winner for Gyeongnam in the playoff game to knock them out of the playoffs. But apart from that, I think they should be very quite proud of themselves for what they achieved. A team that they went from bottom to top, basically. So I think this season now, the off season now, Bucheon got to look at it now and go, okay, what happens next year now? Was that a one-off season, or do we build on what we have? So, but for me, that they were the surprising team.
Yeah, and they kept their manager from the year before. It would have been very easy to sort of sack him, but after finishing bottom, but they kept him, and obviously they were proved right to do so by finishing fourth, and they came very close, didn't they? You know, Gyeongnam with that last minute winner from Thiago. So yeah, very very close. All right, well, down towards the bottom of the table, you could probably look at the biggest underachievers. Branco. I mean, there are two teams that should really be, given the sort of size of their backing and whatnot, Busan and Jeonnam in K-League 1. Which one of those or any other team do you think is the biggest underachievers in K-League 2 this season?
Well, I'll say a little bit about both clubs, if I may.
Sure.
Busan finished 5th in 2021, and then they followed that up with a total car wreck this year. So it's obvious that a lot of work is going to need to be done over the winter to have a look at the roster, assess their needs. I think Park Jin-sub has a lot of work to do, and I have to consider the possibility that if they get off to a slow start in 2023, there could be another managerial change on the sidelines. Where Jeonnam is concerned, I mean, they played in the Champions League this year, and they didn't play poorly, actually. They played quite decently. But when they resumed league play after their return, everything just went downhill. They went months without a win and essentially knocked themselves out of contention for anything. So that's another club that's really going to have to get back on track. Jeonnam has always had a really strong backing from the fans, especially. So the fans are going to have expectations for next year, and the turnaround's going to be it's going to have to be quick. And one last thing I would say is K-League 2 is better when they're competitive. So let's hope to see something better from them next year. Yeah,
indeed. Well, work to be done for them over the winter, but I think that's more or less it, really. It's just the small matter of the Footballogy match of the week, which I suppose it should be the opening game of the World Cup. I can't believe we're already at the World Cup, to be honest. It's kind of crept up on us, but yeah, Qatar, host nation, Qatar. They're taking on Ecuador on Sunday, which will be, for us here in Korea, a 1 a.m. kickoff. I'm not sure I'll watch the whole game because it's, we've got work the next day, but it's in Al Bayt Stadium in Al Khor. Now, in terms of, I'm going to have a look at TripAdvisor to see what you can do in that city. Well, there's, let's have a look. There's Al Khor Park, Al Khor Mall. There's Purple Island, full of Daejeon fans, I'm sure. There's Al Takira Beach. Michael, what's the weather going to be like, do you think?
It's going to be hot, 31 degrees. So.
There we go. Hot. So if you do go to Qatar, take your sun cream. But if you do go to Qatar or any game, really, because there are still games being played in the sort of lower leagues around the world, make sure you check in using the Footballogy app. More than just a ground hopping app, it is the handiest tool for football fans. You can check in, upload pictures, collect badges based on milestones such as the number of leagues that you've been or number of matches in one stadium. And you can sort of check in and see who else is at the game and make some football friends.
Indeed.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're everywhere with our World Cup coverage, though, Paul. We have podcasts for every career game coming up during this tournament. We have other content out there too. On K-League United, we'll have written previews for every game. We're going to have other articles like an interview with Kim and Jung. We're going to have Bento's full press conference where he named and explained his choices. Michael also has a few things up his sleeve about Korea's opponents. So lots of things to be keeping an eye on K-League United and also KLeague.com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, profiles of K-League players involved in the career squad up there slowly. The goalkeepers went up there online on Tuesday. More to come. More to come on Patreon too. We've more stuff to go up on there, like transfer rumors. If you want to read about all that in the K-League, but for the World Cup stuff, there's kind of an analysis of Korea's World Cup squad, their experience at the World Cups, and who scored the most goals. And that kind of thing. So subscribe for as little as $3 to get access to all the content. And of course, thank you so much to those who have signed up already. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and finally, don't forget that you can get 10% discount off classic football shirts by clicking the link in the description of this episode and using the discount code KLU10. So yeah, not too late if you want to pick up some classic shirts for the World Cup.
Yeah, like me, I got that Korea 2014 shirt. Finally replaced that one that I lost. But I think that's it from us for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Churchill soon. See you soon.
정조선 공영 폭격기 김신우